somewhere deep within the swamp to find the truth and expose corruption. Our fearless leader, Tony Spade. This is Swamp Fox Patriot Radio.
Blackwater Hattie lived back in the swamp where strange green reptiles crawl. Snakes hang thick from the cypress trees like sausage on the smokehouse wall. Where the swamp is alive with 1,000 eyes, and all of them watching you. Stay off the track, Hattie Shack, in the back of the Black Bayou. Way up the road from Hattie's shack lies a sleepy little Okeechobee town. Talk a swamp witch Hattie lock you in when the sun go down. Rumors of what she done, rumors of what she'd do, kept folks off the track of Hattie's shack in the back of the Black Bayou.
Greetings and welcome to the Swamp Fox Patriot. I'm your host, Tony Spain, broadcasting from the capital city of Columbia, South Carolina. It's Friday, May 28th, and Memorial Day weekend is upon us, the unofficial start to summer. Kickoffs of trips to the beach, the backyard cookouts, and according to some on the radio and TV, it's time to get down there to the stores, for all the sales on furnitures and clothes and such. And maybe you need a new car. Amazing deals going on this weekend on Memorial Day car sales, apparently. But before you get that grill out, you should really remember what the weekend is about. But it's just how our society is. But it's kind of sad to me at times that some of you will forget those that should never be forgotten. They're the reason for the long weekend, and their ultimate sacrifice is the reason that you get to enjoy everything this weekend. We should never forget those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in service to the nation. And there's three things in my life that I've always valued above anything else, and that's God, family, and country. But in the order in which I valued and took care of these things has not always been the same. For sometimes country came before family, and sometimes country came before God. And I guess God's going to forgive me for those times, but it was those times when I fought beside my brothers and sisters in arms, and that family came before all. And I'm going to tell you, because once that first bullet zips by your head, it's no longer about anything other than the person fighting next to you. And just doing whatever you can to make it out of that situation, to make sure that you both make it out alive. But some of us didn't make it out alive, and to my brothers and sisters who gave all, may they rest in peace. You will not be forgotten as long as I have breath. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying not to enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the beach, the cocktails. If you need furniture or car, to get the best deal you can. However, come Monday afternoon, take a moment to remember those that should never be forgotten, but sometimes are. And if you have kids, explain to them what the day is about. This is an education that should not be forgotten, ever. We wouldn't even have a nation if it wasn't for them. We wouldn't be allowed to even give our opinion if it wasn't for them. And there's a national moment of remembrance and silence on Monday at 3 p.m. So take that moment and reflect on this. and those that have sacrificed. And I'd like to take a moment right now to memorialize some honorable great men that I either served with or knew personally that gave that ultimate sacrifice. Um, and on Monday, we're going to have a special edition of the Swamp Fox Patriot, and I'm going to share some of their stories. Um, so make sure to tune in for that. 14 years ago, Sunday, six U.S. paratroopers, and two foreign ally soldiers gave the ultimate sacrifice when their Chinook was shot down by a propelled grenade out of the night sky in the Helmand province of Afghanistan. And their names are as follows: Chief Warrant Officer Christopher Algier, 33, of Omaha, Nebraska; Chief Warrant Officer Joshua Rogers, 29, of Bloomington, Illinois; Staff Sergeant Charlie Bagwell, 28, of Lake Toxaway, North Carolina; Sergeant Jesse Blammyers, 25, of West Jordan, Utah; Sergeant Brandon Hadaway, 25, of Valley, Alabama; Canadian Army Master Corporal Daryl Preed, 43, of Burlington, Ontario; British soldier Mike Gilliott, 28, of Southport, England. And we'll just continue down the list. Sergeant Marshall Edgerton, 27, of Dalton, Georgia, was killed in action in Ramadi, Iraq, December 11th, 2003. Sergeant Kenny Nichols, 28, of Georgetown, Illinois. He was killed in action in the Kunar province of Afghanistan on December 1st of 2009. Staff Sergeant James Hunter, 25, South Amherst, Ohio, was killed in action, Kandahar, Afghanistan, June 18th of 2010. Lance Corporal Joshua Witzman, 23, Covington, Indiana, killed in action, Helmand Province, May 30th, 2012. Major Michael Donahue, 41, Columbus, Ohio, killed in action, Kabul, Iraq, September 16th of 2014. Now, there is nothing that can repay the debt to their sacrifices to this nation, but the best we can do is to remember their memory, is to seek our dreams and to do our best in whatever it is that we choose to do, and live the best life that we possibly can, because their lives were never fully allowed to be lived, and their dreams were buried with them. Their dreams were buried with them when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one that they were living and the one they were going to live once they got out of hell. But let us also be glad and thankful that such soldiers existed. And let's hope that such soldiers exist going forward to answer the call of a soldier's life of honor, sacrifice, and duty. And let's celebrate their life and their dedication to duty rather than mourn their death. So sometime on Monday or this weekend, just take a little time and reflect on that. That's what the weekend is about. That's why most of us have Monday off. We'll be back right after this. This is Swamp Fox Patriot. I'm your host, Tony Spain.
Welcome to May 28th, 2021 on the National Day calendar. Today we celebrate a fast food favorite and taking the road less traveled. More after the break.
Things that are soft. Clouds, puppies, pillows, hand sanitizer. No, really. Saf Power hand sanitizer cream is made with cold-pressed safflower oil. Saf Power moisturizes and rejuvenates your skin while also protecting you from harmful germs. For more on the difference you can feel, visit safpower.com.
In the 1950s, one of the hottest new appliances for restaurants was the multi-mixer, a blender that could make up to 6 milkshakes at once. And this is what brought a young salesman named Ray Kroc to a burger joint owned by the McDonald's brothers. Kroc was so impressed by their operation that he partnered with them to franchise the restaurant. By 1958, McDonald's restaurants had sold over 100 million burgers, and that number is now in the hundreds of billions. Their hamburgers are easily the most famous burger on the planet. And if it weren't for an ambitious salesman, we may never have heard of McDonald's. On National Hamburger Day, grab your own favorite, whether fast or slow.
When it comes to road trips, there are two kinds of travelers, the tourist and the pilot. The tourist likes to take their time. They're looking for those lesser-known sites found on the road less traveled. Tourists stop more often for snacks and any handwritten sign advertising local treats. The pilot, on the other hand, is on a mission. Program the GPS with minimal stops so that passengers arrive ahead of schedule, even when they're protesting for more potty breaks or a ride on the giant dinosaur. No matter which kind of traveler you are, travel centers have got you covered. Be sure to plan a route that has plenty of fuel, food, and travel necessities along the way so you can celebrate the journey that brings families together on National Road Trip Day.
So which kind of traveler are you, Marlo?
Obviously a tourist. I love all of that. How about you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's
John?
only because,
go on.
John, I'm sure.
I'm totally a tourist.
Right? That's
Cool.
only because I was raised by a pilot, so now I stop
Oh,
with
yeah.
everything. Hey, tomorrow it's National Paperclip Day.
I'm playing with one right now, as a matter of fact.
Well, there you
Keeping
go.
it together. Marlo's
Yes.
keeping it together.
All the time. I'm Anna DeVere.
I'm Marlo Anderson.
Thanks for joining us as we celebrate every day.
See you tomorrow.
That is the music of Scott Buckley you have heard on the last two bumper music tracks. What an amazing talent. You can find him on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel there. It won't cost you a dime either. His work is brilliant in my opinion. I love this. I love it. The first one you heard was Ascension, and this one is you're listening to now is called Legionnaire. Um, just an amazing talent. But let's hear another one from Scott Buckley. This one is called Titan. I mean, this music is like songs telling a story without any words. Just simply amazing. That's Scott Buckley. You can find him on YouTube. You can subscribe to his channel there. This is Swamp Fox Patriot Radio. I'm your host, Tony Spain. Welcome back. Sorry for the quick break, but I had to recollect myself before going further. And we're back, and it's Indy 500 weekend, folks. One of the best times of the year. You know, before I joined the Army, I can't think of an Indy 500 that I missed. I think I was there for almost all of them from the time that I was a kid. I don't remember exactly when I started going to the Indy 500 for sure, but it was at a very young age. But that's just something that you do, I guess, when you grow up 70 miles from the greatest spectacle in racing. Um, so I've seen a lot of action at the track in Indianapolis, and but you know, for the greatest spectacle in racing, there's sure a lot of people that never see the Indy 500. Um, it might be the greatest party in racing for them. Um, I have one memory as a child with my father. We went to the Indy 500, and the race was over, and we were coming out, going back to the car, and there was a guy laying in the bed of his truck, and um, obviously from a little too many adult beverages, I guess. Of course, as a kid, you don't understand that. You don't realize why is he laying in the bed of his truck, but he pops up and he asked us. He's like, "Who won the race?" And my father told him that Danny Sullivan had won, and he said, "Oh, I like that guy." And he goes, he's like, "I've been coming here for 23 years and I have never seen the race." So a lot of people go to Indianapolis, never seen a race. I always went to the race when I went, but anyways, it's Indy 500 weekend, and I'm going to make my pick right now. Um, Seems to be the year of the old guy. Tom Brady, oldest quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. Phil Mickelson just won a PGA Major, the oldest to ever win a PGA Major. So I'm going to stick with the old guys, and I am going to go with Tony Kanaan. He is 46, the oldest in the field today. Um, Does that make him? Would that make him the oldest to ever win the Indy 500? Anyone know that? How old was AJ Foyt when he was in his 40s? And who Al Unser Sr. was up there too. Anyone? Let's see if we can find. Yep, no, he'll miss it by 1 year. Al Unser Sr. was 47 when he won his last Indy 500. Then he is the oldest to have won the event. AJ Foyt was 42. So there you have it. But that's my pick for today. Tony Kanaan to win the Indy 500. I mean, if these old guys keep it up, maybe I'll get back in a car. I mean, I'm not as old as well. Let's just say I'm not as old as Tony Kanaan anyway. But no one's gonna give me a ride. So it's all about the young guys now. But maybe just one last time, the old guys can do it and keep the old guys rule year going. So last Friday, the Wall Street Journal broke with this blockbuster of a story. It wasn't really a blockbuster of a story for, I don't know, people like me who's been saying this story for over a year now. But I guess it's a blockbuster for the rest of the media because until Friday they refused to cover it. In fact, they not only did they refuse to cover it, they denied that there was any possibility that this could even happen. Denied it so much that anyone that said that it was a possibility was cuckoo and a conspiracy theorist. Um, but again, real funny how all these conspiracies just keep coming true. I don't understand. But anyway, so Friday, the Wall Street Journal broke with this story of the intelligence on the Wuhan lab fuels debate on COVID-19 origin. As it turns out, 3 researchers from China's Wuhan Institute of Virology became sick and sick enough to seek hospital care in November of 2019. But China didn't tell anybody until about a month later. Um, so this report has reopened the debate that maybe this whole thing did start in a Chinese lab, but the left until now keeps saying that there's no way. I mean, this is something that myself and many others were questioning early in 2020 when when this whole thing started. But the media and their fact checkers and said that we were all conspiracy theorists. There's no way that this came from a lab. It came from bats. It came from bats in a Chinese wet market. Even Fauci was like, "There's no way." Although now he says that he's not sure. But back then, if you thought differently, you were a nut job. And you were a nut job to even suggest otherwise. Like you couldn't even question it. So and that's this virus is not the only thing that this narrative is pushed on. You can't have any different thought on COVID-19. Can't have any kind of different thought on lockdowns. You can't question the vaccination. Um, you know, you can't question any of these things. Election fraud, right? There's absolutely no evidence, right? Every story that you read in the media is followed by or it'll say the big lie or the election conspiracy or so and so keeps pushing the big lie of election fraud, even though there's no evidence. I mean, you can see it in story after story and story. I don't even have to give you an example. It's so prevalent. But it's always there is, even though there is no evidence. And I disagree with that. I disagree with that statement, and I disagree. There was evidence in 2020 that this thing came from a lab. Now, just because you want to ignore the evidence does not mean that there is no evidence. Okay? Now, there is evidence that something fishy happened in the 2020 election. There's evidence out there. But just because the media, because NBC, ABC, CBS, or CNBC, CMS, whoever, all the alphabet, CNN, just because they don't want to report it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Just like yesterday when we were talking about the letter of all the generals and admirals, CNN, they just act like it doesn't exist. So if they don't report it, it doesn't exist to them. It's so it's the same way here. I mean, but how does this happen? Because it's not just the media. It's they get everybody on board, and is willing nobody's willing to even speak on the other side, for the fear of being intimidated or for the fear of being chastised, or pushed into a corner of being accused of basically being insane. So the narrative just goes on. Now, in the psychology world, this is called groupthink. Okay? Now, it's it's a thought process and it's groupthink bias, and it can be very, very dangerous. And in some situations, um, it could it could cost people's lives, if you really think about it. But so, what is groupthink? What is it exactly? So, groupthink is the practice of thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that discourages creativity or individual responsibility. It's a psychological phenomenon that occurs with a group of people in which the desire for harmony or conformity in the group results in an irrational or dysfunctional decision making outcome. All right? So this can occur by rationalizing irrationality, and that is done through peer pressure, or when a group believes that they have obtained the moral high ground. Okay, so I mean, this has been done throughout the history of the world. This is not anything that is new. Um, Now, I never in a million years thought that this could happen in America, at least not in my lifetime. But we're sitting here and we're watching it, and it is happening. Um, but probably one of the most famous examples of groupthink is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. I mean, it's groupthink bias is the reason I am cynical and lacking in trust of any organized group that's bounded together by a direct common cause. And the main reason is because people are flawed. We know this by their design. People are flawed and evil by nature. I mean, that's a truth. That's a reality. And any group that's rounded together by a direct common cause, eventually they get poisoned by the individuals that are in them. I mean, unless you have some really, really, good, um, what am I looking for? Bylaws in the group that will not allow that to happen. Um, but uh, but but most of the time, these groups become poisoned by the individuals who are willing to protect the group's sins against the power that has been formed by the hierarchy and the elite group. Um, you know, And I mean, that's why that's why you end up crucifying Jesus on a Good Friday, because um, the rabbis at the time were trying to protect their hierarchy. They didn't want Jesus to set them right. So they basically went to the Romans and had him crucified. I mean, that's what happened. Groupthink bias can also um, occur as a result of censorship in a group, or the illusion of unanimity. So, in other words, you believe that everybody else believes the same thing that you do. So there cannot be any other possibility. And the censorship thing is big, okay? And that's basically kind of what's going on um, with the groupthink bias right now. I mean, and you can kind of see this um, in both extremes of both parties, both the Democrat and the Republican Party. You have this groupthink bias, and it's created because we all live in our own little echo chambers. Like, okay, so Twitter, right? You put out a tweet, in which I don't really ever do. I use Twitter to gather a lot of information. I don't put a lot of information out on Twitter. But you put out the information, or you get information, and most of the time, the people that's going to see your stuff, because of the algorithms, and Facebook's the same way, is people that agree with you. So you're kind of living in this echo chamber. We all are. I'm just willing to admit that we're living in this echo chamber. Um, but but when that happens, you create this idea that everybody around you is right and everybody else is wrong. Well, it seems that the media and the elites have taken this a step further, and now it's not only is everybody around them that they hang out with and whatever is right, and they have the power and they control the information. So they're just going to shut everybody else down. And that is basically what is going on here. Um, you know, and I've experienced this before, long before COVID-19. Um, I think maybe the first time that that I experienced anything like this was when I went to school, um, when I went to college while I was in the army, and I would sit in classrooms uh, in college, which is an organization, right? It's an institution. Colleges are an organization, and they are not immune to this. Okay, but I'm sitting in my political science class, and the professor is literally discounting my opinions as irrelevant. Um, they completely discounted my opinions on Iraq and Afghanistan, um, and I was told uh, that because that I was actually there, um, because I was actually there in Afghanistan and Iraq, uh, and that created a bias, and because of my bias of actually being there, you know, hands on the boots on the ground there, I can't understand the macro issues that the professors, have gathered from books. Now, can you imagine that? I mean, can you imagine that? Your boots on the ground experience discredits you. Now let's think about that for a second. Because this is exactly what has happened with COVID-19. Dr. Fauci is the expert, supposedly, although he can't seem to make up his mind on what his expert opinion should be. But that's not the point here. Dr. Fauci has not seen a patient in 20 years. He has no experience when it comes to taking care of patients, but he's the expert, and that's fine. We'll let him be the expert. We have people, nurses, and doctors that have actually seen patients and are seeing patients, and they say that certain treatments and certain drugs, in their experiences and in their opinions, may be effective and work. But experts like Dr. Fauci, who's not in the field, says, no way, can't be true. We don't have enough clinical research and evidence to make that case. So it's kind of the same thing. Your experience, your boots on the ground experience, doesn't mean anything. In fact, it completely discredits you because you can't possibly be as smart as the expert. Well, let me tell you something. Dr. Fauci is not my doctor, okay? Nor would I ever let him be my doctor. There is no way I would go to Dr. Fauci as a patient. I'm just telling you, that's my opinion. I'm not going to. Now, my doctor, I like my doctor. I'll go to him. He's seen a lot more patients than Dr. Fauci has. I'll trust his experienced expert opinion before I trust Dr. Fauci's. But the problem is if you disagree with Dr. Fauci, well, now you're the problem. You don't believe in science, right? We've all heard that phrase, right? You don't believe in science. You don't believe the experts, right? And so because you don't, we're now going to shame you and belittle you until you either shut up or you say that you believe the science or that you believe the experts or that you're going to follow along. This has nothing to do with science, and it has everything to do with control. And that's the real problem about this whole story to me, is that one side was never allowed to even have a dissenting opinion about the story without being labeled. And it's not just this story. There's several other stories that are going on right now. People are trying to shut you down if you don't follow the narrative. And that's a dangerous place to be. And that now I want to bring up what's called the 10th man. Do you know what the 10th man is? Anyone? Anyone remember the movie World War Z? The zombie movie? I'm not big on zombie movies, but I do like this one. If I had to watch a zombie movie, it would definitely be World War Z with Brad Pitt. It's a pretty good movie for a zombie movie. Again, I'm just not big on them. I don't like The Walking Dead. I watched like the first 3 episodes and lost interest. I know, I'm weird, right? Everyone else loves it, not me. But anyways, World War Z. There's a scene in that movie that describes this perfectly. And it's basically, it says if you have a group of 10 people, and 9 people all agree. The 10th man has to take the other side. He has to make an argument for the other side. He has to disagree and argue for the other side. Whether he agrees with the other side or not, it's his duty, his responsibility to make an argument for the other side. It's the 10th man. Here's the scene from that movie. Okay? I'm going to put it up here on the video if you're watching this. If not, you'll just get the audio. But this is the scene from the movie World War Z explaining the 10th man, and it's kind of important.
The problem with most people is that they don't believe something can happen until it already has. It's not stupidity or weakness. It's just human nature.
How did you know?
Gerald Lane wrote a self-defeating Jeremiad about his employer, the UN, back in 2010. Caused a few ripples, sidelined your career. Thought you'd have parlayed those ripples into a self-righteous book.
No one knows for profit. How did Israel know?
We intercepted a communique from an Indian general saying they were fighting the Rakshasa. Translation, zombies. Technically, undead.
Jürgen Warmbraum, high-ranking official in the Mossad, described as sober, efficient, not terribly imaginative. And yet, you build a wall because you read a communique that mentions the word zombie?
Well, when put like that, I'd be skeptical as well. In the 30s, Jews refused to believe they could be sent to concentration camps. In 72, we refused to fathom we'd be massacred in the Olympics. In the month before October 1973, we saw Arab troop movements, and we unanimously agreed they didn't pose a threat. Well, a month later, the Arab attack almost drove us into the sea. So we decided to make a change.
Change.
The 10th man. If 9 of us look at the same information and arrive at the exact same conclusion, it's the duty of the 10th man to disagree. No matter how improbable it may seem, the 10th man has to start digging with the assumption that the other 9 are wrong.
And you were that 10th man?
Precisely. Since everyone assumed that this talk of zombies was cover for something else, I began my investigation on the assumption that when they said zombies, they meant zombies.
It's patient 0 from India.
That's the problem. There's so many potential sources in play that no one knows where it began. The organ trade in Germany, strange examples of violent behavior across the Asian peninsulas. Meanwhile, the zombie plague keeps spreading, and we do what we can. These are the Jerusalem Salvation Gates. 2 of 10 portals to the security perimeter into fortified Israel.
You're letting people in.
Every human being we save is one less zombie to fight.
So there you have it, the 10th man. No matter how improbable it may seem, the 10th man has to start thinking with the presumption the other 9 are wrong. It seems like a pretty good theory to me when you really think about it. In fact, the military kind of has this thing. It's not necessarily the 10th man, but we do this thing called an AAR. It's an after action review or report. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's an after action report, AAR. And what it does is after an event or a mission has taken place, you basically everybody that partaked in the mission has to write a report, and the the main part of this report is you have to write 3 things that went well and 3 things that went bad and how you would do them better the next time. And I remember there was times there'd be some people would say, well, I can't think of anything bad. No, that's not true. There's always something bad, and you have to come up with 3 of them. And that's, and then it goes in the file. So if you do the event again or the mission again, you can look back on it and you go, okay, well, we did this last time, and this was what was right, this was what was wrong, and this was the proposed solution to do it better the next time, right? So it's kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. But anyways, there were times where you were forced to write down something that you felt didn't go right, even if you felt the event went or mission went really, really good. It's kind of the same way here with the 10th man. But now I'm going to ask, who is our 10th man? Who's the 10th man right now? Do we have a 10th man? Are we even allowed to have a 10th man? Because the big tech is trying to shut the 10th man down, if you haven't noticed. They only want one narrative. They only want one side of the story, and if it's up to them, they'll have one narrative and one side of the story forever. There will never be a 10th man. There will never be an opposite opinion. And that's dangerous. So who is the 10th man? I can tell you the 10th man used to be. The 10th man used to be the journalist. The 10th man used to be the media. They used to be the ones that investigated things. They asked the questions. Something didn't seem right. They went and tried to figure it out. They're not doing that now. In fact, they're doing the opposite. They're going along with the narrative and saying nothing to see here. And you got to ask yourself, why is that? Why are they trying to drown out the 10th man? Why are they trying to drown out everybody that disagrees? And where is our 10th man? Well, we had a few, but they were drowned. They were drowned out by the swamp. One of the 10th man that we had was the president, the former president, Donald J. Trump. He was a 10th man. He was trying to tell us that this thing may have come from China. Or it definitely came from China, but maybe from a lab. And here I have here's a clip of Donald Trump from April 30th of 2020 saying just that.
One of 2 things happened. They either didn't do it and, they couldn't do it from a competent standpoint, or they let it spread. And, I would say probably it got out of control. But, there's another case that how come they stopped all the planes and all of the traffic from going into China, but they didn't stop the planes and the traffic from coming into the United States and from coming into all over Europe. I mean, look at Italy. Look what happened to Italy. And it's very lucky. This country is very lucky, and I'm very lucky that I put the ban on China, as you know, very early on in January. We put the ban on in China, and that was a very early date. That wasn't a late date. That was an early date. Then we later put the ban on in Europe. And if we didn't do that, as Alex knows, we would have had a problem like you wouldn't have believed. We would have had a problem much bigger. But then you take a look at what happened to Italy. A lot of those people went to Italy instead. And it's been a very, very tough place, Italy.
And then on holding them accountable, is that something you prefer to do now in the next few weeks?
No, I don't want to do that. I want to find out what happened. I think we'll be able to get a very good, very powerful definition of exactly what happened. We're working on it strongly now, and I think it's going to be very powerful. But they could have stopped it. They are a very brilliant nation, scientifically and otherwise. It got loose, let's say, and they could have capped it. They could have stopped it, but they didn't. But they stopped planes from going to China, but they didn't stop them from going to the rest of the world. What was that all about, Jim?
Just to help us out on this, to follow up on Jordan's question, you praised China in the past, so what's changed? When you tweeted, China's been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The U.S. greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. What has changed between then, when you were saying those things about China, and now?
Well, what's changed is the following. We did a trade deal, and everybody was very happy. There's nobody ever been tough on China like I've been tough on China. I got elected, at least partially, because of borders and military and different things. But one of the things I'd say is how China and other countries are ripping us off. So recently, we signed a trade deal with China a number of months ago. China's buying billions of dollars worth of our product, our farm product and other product, manufacturing product, and it's been a great deal. But then we noticed a virus, and it's not acceptable what happened. It came out of China, and it's not acceptable what happened. And now what we're doing, Jim, is we're finding out how it came out. Different forms. You know, you've heard all different things. You've heard 3 or 4 different concepts as to how it came out. We should have the answer to that in the not-too-distant future, and that will determine a lot how I feel about China. But when I was, of course, I was very rough with China. I mean, Biden, as an example, the previous administration, they let China rip off this country like nobody's ever ripped off this country. Now, what I did is I took that, Jim, I took that and I made it into a great deal for our country. But after that, all of a sudden we heard there's a virus and a virus is coming in. That changes my mind very greatly. That's a whole different thing. So you can have good trade deals. That was earlier on, the trade deal. I made the trade deal earlier on. And it's a great deal. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars of money in different forms, including the fact that we have a 25% tariff on $250 billion. It's a tremendous amount of money. Some of that money I've given to the farmers because they were targeted by China. We're looking at exactly where it came from, who it came from, how it happened, separately and also scientifically. So we're going to be able to find out.
And my question is, have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I think that the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves because they're like the public relations agency for China. And this country pays them almost $500 million a year, and China pays them $38 million a year. And whether it's a lot or more, it doesn't matter. It's still, they shouldn't be making excuses when people make horrible mistakes, especially mistakes that are causing hundreds of thousands of people around the world to die. I think the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves.
So there you have Donald Trump. There you have Donald Trump basically saying, hey, we don't really know, but, this thing could have come from a lab. Pretty sure it came from a lab. And the media just can't accept that. But he's being the 10th man out there. Now, I want to show you this next video. And this comes from The Recount, which is, it's a left-leaning group. But they put this video out, and the time frame is almost identical. It's right around the same time frame, pushing the idea that Trump is spreading conspiracy theories. Trump is pushing this China lab conspiracy theory with no evidence. There's that narrative again. Conspiracy theory, no evidence. So all you got to do is switch the subject matter. Conspiracy theory, no evidence. But anyways, at the same time, China, at the same time period when this happens, China is defiantly denying any such claim that this virus came from a lab. In fact, they go on the attack on several occasions and tried to say that it came from the U.S. lab. And I remember one story that actually said that U.S. troops was spreading it. So China knows. China knows that this virus, where this virus came from. But they know that they don't want the rumor that it came from a Wuhan lab to go anywhere. And the media helps them spread their propaganda. The media literally sided with the communist Chinese government. Now, they shouldn't have sided with anyone and did the investigative reporting that they're supposed to be doing. But they went, no, that whole conspiracy theory over there that Trump's spreading, that can't be true. China must be telling the truth. We'll go with them. Didn't even look into it. But anyways, here's the video from the recount.
Pushing a conspiracy theory again.
Claiming that the U.S. has information that the virus originated in a Chinese laboratory, but offers no evidence.
Whether they made a mistake or did somebody do something on purpose?
What gives you a high degree of confidence that this originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
I'm not allowed to tell you that.
Just hours before that, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence put out a rare statement.
The intelligence community concurs with the wide scientific consensus that the COVID-19 virus was not man-made or genetically modified.
But it is still investigating.
The only thing that they are saying with certainty is that the virus originated in China.
Scientists said that the virus arose naturally in bats.
Top officials in the Trump administration have pushed U.S. intelligence agencies to, quote, hunt for evidence.
This is coming as the president has been ramping up attacks and blaming China more and more.
Drawing up plans to punish China over their handling of the virus.
We had the phase of downplaying the pandemic, and then we have the phase of blame shifting.
The World Health Organization, President Obama, China, the Chinese virus.
His management of this pandemic is going to be the central issue on the ballot this November, and the only way for Donald Trump to win is to somehow make this somebody else's fault.
So there's the media, who used to be the 10th man, used to be the one asking and questioning things when no one else would, but not anymore. No, not anymore. Now they're now one of the 9. They're now one of the 9, and they mock the 10th man. They attack the 10th man. They shame the 10th man into silence. But as it's turning out, the 10th man was right. The 10th man was right on a lot of things. And I believe we're going to find out that the 10th man has been right all along. I'm Tony Spain. This is the Swamp Fox Patriot. We're out of time. I hope you have a great weekend. And don't forget to remember the fallen that made the weekend happen. God bless our service members that are still out there fighting. This is the Swamp Fox Patriot. I'm your host, Tony Spain, and we will see you Monday.